Hi everyone, Corey here with Team Cramer Fishing, and this video is going to be a review of a spinning reel from Eagle Claw called the Packet. Okay everyone, as with all the reviews that I do here on the channel, I bought all this stuff myself. Nobody sponsors me, so nobody's really paying me to give my review of a product that they were given to me or that I'm sponsored by. So not that I need a sponsor to buy this, because it only costs $20, which is probably one of the main selling points of the rod. Now a lot of the reviews, almost all of the reviews that I do here, usually when it comes to rods, especially lately, I've been looking for rods that are multi-purpose, like trying to fish for as many different fish as you can with a single rod and kind of have the most fun while you're doing it. This rod breaks from that a little bit. So this is more of a specialty rod, I would say, but it's so cheap at only $20 that it's not what you would normally think of like a high-end specialty rod that has kind of a really specific function, you know, but it also costs a couple $100 or something like that. So for only 20 bucks, you know, it's okay to specialize in my view. Let's start off by pointing out that it is a travel rod. So it breaks down to 4 pieces. See if I can get, I don't know if I've taken it apart since I got it. So it breaks down into 4 pieces. These are, okay, I got the ruler out really quick. Each segment is about 21 inches, okay? Now, when you order this and it comes in the mail, you don't get a case for it. It just comes in like a plastic container. So you'll just have it loose like this hanging around. Suppose you could wrap a couple rubber bands around it and it would hold it together pretty good. Now, when I first got it and I took it out of the plastic case, my initial impression in terms of just the quality, you know, compared to a higher end travel rod, which I have a couple of them now, not high end, but not $20, right? I have, I haven't reviewed it yet, but I have a Daiwa Ardito. I also have the Daiwa Presso travel rods. When I got this one, it felt more like a $20 rod. You know, when you're putting the segments together, you know, this one is especially tight. Some of them barely fit in, which is good, you know, because you want them to be tight when you get them in there. But you could tell that, you know, the tolerances on everything weren't super great, you know. So, but 20 bucks, okay? So I've been using this rod about 3 months now probably, and I've caught a wide variety of fish on it, and it used quite a few different techniques. But I've caught, let's just, you know, some big sunfish, 8-9 inchers, fishing on the bottom with worms. So throwing a little bit more weight out there, letting it sit on the bottom. I would say that's probably the best function for this rod, because it's not particularly, it's not sensitive at all, okay? It's a fiberglass rod. It can bend parabolically. I'm not even holding the end of it, right? So you get lots of bend and flex. So if you have it sitting on the bank, you know, you don't really need like a bait runner reel or anything, because the rod itself has so much flex that nothing's really gonna yank your rod into the water if you're not paying attention to it. You know, it'll bend all the way down to the ground before it pulls out of, you know, a little curly Q rod holder on the bank. So I think this works really well for that. So if you think of it as like a lightweight kind of secondary rod, or a backup rod that you just keep in your car all the time in case maybe your other one breaks, and you maybe only brought one with you and you're not close to home. This would be a great one to just be able to grab and kind of get you out of a bind and let you keep fishing in a situation where you might not otherwise be able to. It's also great for fishing. I think my last video, I caught a 3-pound bass with it. video before that, or a couple videos, I had caught some pretty decent 1 pound, 1.5 pound wipers with it, with very small size 20 hooks on some of them. And what this flex in this rod does is it allows you to keep those tiny hooks, you know, from tearing out of bigger fish. So it just gives you a lot of leeway when you're fishing, in order to help you get those bigger fish in on smaller, lighter gear, which is really what this is specialized in. I would say using light gear, fishing the bottom, and also throwing 1/16 ounce lures or less. Once you get over 1/16, certainly once you get over 1/8 ounce, the rod just has too much flex to cast those, or to cast them and reel them back in. When you're reeling in, you know, a bigger crankbait or anything, the rod's going to always have a constant bend in it because it's just so flexible. So it's really made for the small end. That's why I call it the small lures. That's why I think I would call it more of a specialty rod. It's also not going to have a lot of sensitivity if you're jigging for things, even if you're jigging for things on the bottom. Unless you're using really light, you know, again, 1/16 or 1/32 ounce, you know, if you're bringing something, if you're skipping something on the bottom, hopping it along at 1/32 or maybe 1/16, it would be okay. But any bigger than that, it's going to be hard to get hook sets because there's not going to be enough stiffness in the rod to get bigger hooks in. But all those things taken into consideration, I do like the guides. I mean, they're just simple. You know, they're cheap. It's a $20 rod, but they're sturdy. You know, you don't feel like they're going to break. It's not like I've used this for years and years or anything, but they're sturdy. They're solid. You know, you could take this apart and toss it under your car seat or something. You won't have to worry about them like really getting broken too much. They're not gigantic. They're not huge, so they don't stick out, kind of capture things. You know, the handle, I mean, and the reel seat, this is the same reel seat that you get on like freaking $120 rods. I mean, this is why I always give them a crap. I mean, and I complain about them because they have threads on them and they're just kind of cheap. But, you know, I wish I had one right here to look at, which I don't think I do. But, you know, this handle, I mean, it's just EVA foam, basic plastic reel seat with the little metal rings. It's just as good as any other one you're going to get like this, you know, except for you'll probably spend a lot more money for the other ones. So one of the other things I like about this is when you are casting lighter lures, it does have a lot of flex. It's almost like using a fly rod in some sense, because you can bring the rod back and it will load up even with a 1/16 ounce lure, and then you can kind of whip it out there and it can give you a lot more distance than you would get with a stiffer rod. So throwing light lures into the wind, I don't know if I've ever thrown a better rod than this. So again, like let's say you're in a situation where you need to do that. You want to throw a light lure and you're not getting the casting distance that you would really like to get. You could pull this rod out, swap your reel over to it, even if you hardly ever use it. And in that situation, you're going to be able to throw like 30% farther using this. So for only 20 bucks, man, it's pretty hard to beat. The rod is unique. I mean, it has that classic like retro look. Mine, by the way, is a 6.6 medium. Okay, yeah, so this is a 6.6 medium, which I think is just about the right length and just about the right action. It bends all the way through, as you've seen. It has enough backbone, and it's just long enough where you can cast those 1/16 ounce lures. So if you went down like super lighter than this, I mean, I wouldn't go any lighter than the medium for this particular rod. And maybe this might even be the only kind that they make, since it's the travel packet version. But yeah, the colors are pretty cool. It definitely stands out as a unique rod. I mean, I don't know if I want all my rods to be kind of this mustard and maroon color, but it's kind of neat, you know. It just has personality, and for 20 bucks, you can't really go wrong. I think for multi-species anglers in particular, this would be good in situations where, let's say you're fishing a lot of time if you're a multi-species person or a life lister, you'll go to a new watershed, okay, and you'll spend a weekend there or something. So this would be a great rod to set up on the bank with like a small worm on the bottom of it with a very small hook, again like a size 20, especially at night. You can see this yellow pretty well. The rod has a lot of flex, so if something small comes up and bites it, you'll be able to actually see it, even if it's really small. So a good bank rod, especially at night, for smaller fish. But if you're species hunting, that can come in really handy. I think we were up in northeast Iowa, I caught a little sculpin on accident. It was during the day in muddy water, or even if it's not at night, muddy water would be a good thing too. It was a trout stream, but the water had just gotten a ton of rain, and so it was super muddy, and I ended up pulling a little sculpin in. So it wasn't on this rod at that time, but I couldn't even tell the fish was there. I just checked the bait and it happened to be on the end. I actually think if I was using this rod, I would have seen even a tiny 3-inch sculpin pull the tip of the rod down because it's so flexible. So I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check this one out. And I think it probably belongs in definitely multi-species anglers rod arsenal, and probably as a backup rod it would be great too, or a travel rod. You know, if something happens to it, you're only out 20 bucks, you know, so you could take it almost anywhere and not have to worry about it. All right, thanks for watching Team Cramer Fishing. I'll have more rod reviews and reel reviews coming up, and lots more fishing, multi-species fishing, life listing, all that kind of stuff, family fishing. So subscribe if you haven't yet, and check out some of our videos. Later.